Welcome back. We're still on Aso Money. And then we're back into the interview segment. And today we want to explore leadership qualities in Nigerian youths. The Nigerian youth is faced with a lot. In the 21st century, there's a lot of fast-paced technology, a lot of expectations, a lot of disappointments. Are the institutions getting it right? Do they have the right role models? At what age is it appropriate to start looking for leadership skills among the youth? When is it too late to try and reform people? And as we agree that Nigerian youths make up the larger percentage of the population, then it becomes very imperative to try and identify or nurture leadership qualities within them. And then discussing this topic with me on the program today is Mr. Chris Wani. He's the conveyor, A New Nigeria is Possible. Many thanks for being with us today, Mr. Chris.
Thank you.
Also with us is Mr. Henry Debem. He's the co-author, The Young LIONNA. I like the African vibes I'm feeling with the neck beads and everything. So many thanks for being with us in the studio.
Thank you so much.
So who do we start with now? Let me start with Mr. Chris. You're a convener of A New Nigeria It's Possible. And then so many parents, so many people want to actually believe that a new Nigeria is possible. So I'm going to ask you a two-part question. One, what informed you to start that ideology, to start an organization that actually projects a new Nigeria is possible? Is it too late? Is there hope?
Yeah, I will start with the last question.
Okay.
Which is whether it's too late.
Yes.
There is hope.
Okay.
The answers to these questions are that 1, there is hope. 2, it is not too late. Why I say so is that there is no nation in the world that got it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Even the best of countries of the world. We've seen, if you go through history, you see what they went through, some of which are not, some of them are not as difficult as what we're facing today. Some have to die, and a lot has to happen before they got it right. And Nigeria's own cannot be different. There's only one thing that I think is missing here, is that nation building comes with certain principles, and it takes a people to build a nation. So if the people do not have what it takes to build a nation, they can never get it right. Because whatever you talk about leadership or producing leadership qualities, it's the same people that is in the society that later became leaders. So they can only give what they have. And if over the years Nigeria had existed, we've not really sat down as a people to nurture leadership in the minds of the young people, and they grow up with whatever mentality, is the same thing they will take into leadership. So the truth is that what we have not done in the past is now what we are beginning to do, and we are going to see the results reflect in Nigeria in the nearest future.
Okay, good. Yeah. There's something he said, and I want to bring it to you, Mr. Henry. He says, people need someone to look up to. It's the way they've always done. Nigeria, I'm sorry to say it, but we haven't really had a lot of leaders that people, the young ones, can really look up to. I know when I was growing up, we had people like, Zeke, Awolowo. We had Pan-Africanist that was a yardstick for younger people to look up to. But now, it might be my own assumption, but you have more, the musicians, people with saggy trousers, or the flashy money, big cars, half-nude people, and that's the kind of role model that most young Nigerians look up to. So how do you see, where did this disconnect come from, first of all? We're having different yardsticks or different morality yardsticks as role models that young youths can emulate.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think it's a very good one. I want to start, there's this part of this question I always want to avoid, asking about the history. How did this whole thing come about? It's not even peculiar, in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
It's also, many black nations still suffer the same thing.
Yeah.
And there's these 3 main things that happened. And it happened way back during colonization. The slavery era, a lot of things happened. And the 3 main things that happened that we are still suffering today, which is a reflection of what happened then, is that the treatment with our ancestors, our fathers or mothers, their mothers, passed through, they were dehumanized, dehumanization. They were de-identified, removing whom they are. That's where they lost all the self-esteem, everything. Then denatured. The common organic principles that held us together as Africans, as blacks, were completely denatured. So they lost everything about themselves. Now, the main one we are suffering today is the dehumanization part. Dehumanization, let me tell you, there are two things that every man, carries.
Yeah.
The animalistic instinct and the human instinct. The human instinct is a higher knowledge, a higher being.
Absolutely.
Over animal.
Yeah.
So if I take away what makes you a human being, you are virtually an animal. You behave like those you find in the jungle. There's no difference. So what they did, the dehumanization part, took away the human being in an average black man. And they thought that the animalistic instincts, doing like animals, serving your masters, hating yourself, all those things, became norm for them. And unfortunately, these things were intergenerational. It could be transmitted from one generation to the other because the parents of those days passed it on to their, children,
yeah,
and so on. So believing that English language is a top notch, if you don't pass English language, you shouldn't go to higher education, something that is not there. The white wedding stuff, the long hair thing, being like your colonial masters, you just want to be like them because you found them superior. Nothing about you exists. And these are things we'll pass over to the next generation. Now, that dehumanization part made us see each other like nothing. Animals, just mere animals. So we have no respect for each other. We don't even know what makes an average, a typical black man. So these things we inherited from one generation to the other, from then till now. That's why you see a common factor in all African nations, happening. Now, where do we get it? Leadership in the first place. Now coming down to leadership, you discover that the core element of leadership is humanity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anything you are doing without compassion, kindness, those elements, those attributes that make you a human, if you don't have it, you don't have to go close to any leadership position in the first place. So because we are looking, this consumption mentality, want to be like others, that's the only thing we see as leadership. So anyone who gets there and, starts acquiring wealth, living big, wearing gold chains,
then that's a leader figure.
Becomes the leader for them.
Yes.
The opportunity the younger ones should have had to know what true leadership were lost. Or that opportunity was lost long before they got their generation. So it's the reason why, or the main reason I don't even blame the younger ones. Like you said, and like I also imply, any nation you are seeing today is a reflection of the belief system of that society.
Chris, you, I mean, as a convener of New Nigeria as possible, where do you reach out to these youths? Is it in their schools? Do you go to the churches? Because I know youths have certain places they hang out. Is it on during sports events or what? Where do you actually go to reach this kind of people and then try and get their orientation, like I said, away from that? Okay, let me use this word. Can we decolonialize thoughts? So how do we get to that? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, normally, looking at our society, I would say with all sense of confidence that the youths are found everywhere. Anywhere you turn your eyes, you will see the youths, either at home, in some workplaces, but majority of them are in the school. And that is why we always propose, that it's not something we can be doing a one-off, individual, meeting one person or going to a group. It should be an organized system that could reach out.
Okay.
For example, let's say 80% of the Nigerian young people, they are in schools. Some of them are in schools.
Yeah.
If these ones who are in schools are mentored, because that's an opportunity where their movement is restricted, their character supposed to be, prone in order to become somebody, because you go there to learn. If it's introduced into the school system whereby, it becomes one of the criteria for promotion into the next class, definitely everybody will want to understand and make sure they excel in good behavior.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have a society that had totally forgotten where we're coming from, either because we've left whom we are and we are now living with a borrowed identity, which is the major problem I think that we're having as a people. Now, for us to correct all this, there's need for us to go back to who we truly are, because no man can actually function in the state of a borrowed personality. Who we are Africans. We are not Americans. We are not Europeans. There's something that makes us Africans. There's a belief system we had before the colonization came to overtake us.
But do you think the youth right now will be ready to go back to that Africanism that you're portraying?
Yeah, it's not about whether they are ready. It's where we must go. Because without it, we are going nowhere. You could see, if you've been following a particular road or following a path of life, and it's not leading you anywhere, would you continue? If what we have received has brought us to this lawlessness, so do we continue in that lawlessness, or do we think of something else? And that is why the truth is that we need people in leadership who understand what needs to be done, because that's what is missing. Today, you talk about politics, and leaders leave Nigeria, they want to go to UK to be endorsed. They want to go to UK, they want to go to America to discuss Nigerian domestic problems. It means that they have lost interest. They don't even know what they are governing or what is happening.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that we can't continue in this way. Time has come when we must redefine whom we are, and that's what the new Nigeria is all about. That's what we're talking about, that we need to rewrite our stories. We need to paint our pictures, with our own colors, rather than what is given to us, by other people. And you cannot excel. There's a proverb in my place. They said, you cannot bet or have a perfect bath, over somebody that gives you soap. You understand? Because if you borrow the soap, you manage it.
You're not the owner.
You're not the owner, and the guy can always take it from you.
Exactly.
If you are managing it. Yes. So that is the issue. We have to build a Nigeria that is our own, that we can trust. The democracy we're having today and everything, they are all borrowed. What can we say what can we say we have done to actually say that this is a Nigerian thing that we can hold on to?
Okay, Henry, I know you wrote a book, co-authored a book with someone, the Young LIONNA. Now, when we're talking about leadership skills and then, getting them involved in leadership and everything, what age, and I looked at the cover of the book, and it was something for a younger age, but I wasn't sure what the age bracket is. So if we're trying to marry leadership, what age would you say is the best time to start teaching a child leadership qualities? Why I ask is, like when I was in school, like when you talked about school institutions, I remember that we had guidance and counselors. We had a guidance and counselor teacher, which I feel should have been part of their responsibilities. But we didn't really feel that impact where they're teaching you how to be leaders. What they would do mostly was to say, okay, don't do maths, do English, don't do science, do biology, and then that was just all. But how to live or deal with life issues were lacking there. So what age do you think is the right age to start leadership training, leadership skills for the youth?
Well, I think if it's possible, you should actually start from the womb.
Okay, that's not possible. Okay, but go ahead.
Okay.
So that's early. That's what you're saying.
As early as possible. That in normal human development, the stage we call the formation stage is actually when you are still a lot younger.
Okay.
From childhood, then you are kind of blank. It's an empty space. Your mentality, your philosophy, your belief system is just empty. So it's based on whatever they put in there.
Nature or nurture.
Nature and nature here that you now form. So it's like forming a pot, just like molding a pot. So give the child any shape. It's not when the child is already formed, strong, dry. If you want to force any kind of nurture there, you will only crack it. So ask for me, I think starting from early means even when you still have a child, talk to that child in the womb, behave the way you want that child to behave. I don't know, something a bit, it could be spiritual somehow, but it's a bit mysterious that they hear you. They know.
We know that, yes.
Even when they are born, infant stage.
There's an umbilical cord connected. There must be, yes. Because I know, like when I was much younger and I had my kids, when I sing or do certain things, I feel a reaction. And then we've read and then they tell you, yes, that, when parents are happy or when they're shouting, whatever it is, the child in the womb actually, feels your emotions.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is also those kind of leadership skills are things that you should start that early.
That early. And that will also take me, though I wouldn't want to, I digress a bit, but that will also bring in the key players in this leadership thing, family, parents. So when you see what's happening to our family system now, you can tell why all our children are going gaga. However, starting early, like I said, but for the book, you know, the way it's designed, the structures, the content, the context, all that, you know, we try to make it to fit into children at their age, grade 3, you know, like primary school, grade 3 to about JSS 2 or 3.
Okay.
You know, so
we're looking at an age bracket of maybe around 5, 6, 7,
yes,
till like 13.
6 to like 13.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but so that's just within there. And again, we also have a curriculum. We also have a teacher's guide on this book.
Okay.
That follows the same content, the same context, because the Young LIONNA is just a club. It's a club we are forming in primary schools.
Okay.
And bringing in, you know, selecting some pupils to join that club. Okay. And they are nurtured through the process by their teachers. Their teachers are also trained.
So some schools have accepted the book as something they need for...
now in different 4 states in Nigeria.
That's impressive. That's
good. Ogun State, Enugu, Anambra, and Nasarawa are joining now. We just want to pick at least one state, one school in each of the states. And the whole bigger, broader goal is to make at least a school in each of the 36 states before we now start, you know, duplicating. That's impressive.
Yeah. Now, he mentioned the family. And yes, the family is, I don't want to use the word dysfunctional, but it's not as functional as it used to be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Parenting is quite different from, you know, how it used to be. And I can understand that most parents now don't have the kind of time that, you know, our parents had. You either find both parents working, and then the children are left with the, you know, house helps or drivers or whoever, depends on your social status. As opposed where 30, 40 years ago, it was a communal thing. So even your neighbor would correct you. Your neighbor, you don't even, you rather even get into trouble with your parents than get into trouble with your teachers. You know, parenting was not just like a nuclear family thing. So how can we now get parenting back to the point where it starts from that most important unit of the society, which is the family, that those leadership qualities are you know, started from the family, and then from there it can, how do they say, it's from inside the house, you look good before you come out to the public. So how do we get the family units involved in leadership training for young people?
Well, I think the major thing is to resetting our priorities. You know, because today a whole lot has, you know, is happening. You know, we give excuses as to why we cannot, you know, be involved in reparenting. You know, from childhood, we already have people, you know, we call, you know, to help us out, even from the age, before age 1, a child is already under a care of somebody who do not even have any sense.
Not every sense.
Yeah.
I didn't think it. Okay.
No, it's true.
Well, I understand what you mean. Yes, yes.
People are of less age to be, you know, that you can say it's possible for you to leave someone under their care. But because you know what it is, if I have a child, he must go to school. Some of these children we even allow to train our children. We don't allow them to go to school. So what are they going to feed our children? They can't give them what they don't have.
You can't give what you don't have, exactly.
So now, the issue here is about, if I see the upbringing of my children as the most important thing in my life, then that will inform the decisions I take. We know also that the society we live in is not really giving us that, you know, leverage, you know, to live a good life. So everybody is scouting, you know, to live well, to make money. And in the process of making money, we're losing our children. We're losing what we ought to be doing as parents. And the aftermath is what we're seeing today in the society. So if you ask me, is that we must encourage our parents. And this is where leadership comes in, because there are policies, if put in place, you know, could be, you know, could help to make sure that people are not allowed the opportunity to have children and not train them. Especially you look at some part of the country today where some children are born and in less than 1 or 2 years, they are made to be on the street, you know, with nobody caring or supervising their life. And this is what is, we've seen the, you know, the consequences of all of this in the society. So we must come to that state where we will understand that parenting is compulsory. It's something we must do for our children. Because these children are, how do I put, they're ignorant of anything. It's like he said, what you put in them is what they will produce. So every child is born perfect with every sense to make him be a human. You know, but what you put inside of the child will determine what he becomes, he or she becomes. So what we're saying is that parenting is very key. It's not negotiable. If we're not doing it before, we need to step up, because that is the only thing. The highest thing we can build on earth are the people we are raising. Not actually the buildings, not actually the cars we drive, not actually the dress we wear, but how much are we able to do for these young people that you look up tomorrow and say, I brought up this child, and he's representing the attitude that ought to be in the society.
So we've talked about the...
Sorry,
okay, go ahead there.
Yeah, just let me add to what he has said. You know, you're asking about how to encourage parents to do all that. There are so many, whole lots of practical, feasible things we can do. And we have a lot of things in stock as a New Nigeria is possible, and the partnership, you know. Let me give you one typical example. What you see today is what the society celebrates. If you start celebrating wealth, people with SAGs, driving good, you know, big money, children will become that because that's what they see every day. But we are trying to design, we are designing simple children party, birthday party, that will start promoting not who will dance or the who pass, all this kind of, because I've come up with one, I'm just looking for the first place to pilot it, where the games they will play there is bring out unwashed plates. Let the parents bring their children. Who wash pass, win prize. Bring small thing, cook. Who cooking do me pass. So those domestic things that would help bring out the responsibility of leadership, taking responsibility at home and in schools, all those small house chores, bring them up, not coming to do something that doesn't add value to them in the name of entertainment. So by the time you know that all the parties are now promoting washing plates, you know, scrubbing the floor, cooking, all those or some other leadership values, showing some elements of kindness and empathy to one another, or somebody letting them come to experience, to tell their stories of leadership, and they will give them prize. This is what the Young LIONNA Club is all about, even though we are starting it in school. So when you find a society that everything around that society is promoting such values, your parents...
What about the, sorry, was part of your this thing, the religious institutions, right? I think, I know, should have a very strong role to play in terms of leadership, instilling leadership qualities in anybody, because you find that most churches have Sunday school and blah, 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 all of that. Mosques also have where people go and do their, they learn to recite the Quran. So you have religious institutions. And then I know that sometimes humanity, morality, are intermarried when you're talking about leadership quality. But sadly too, we've noticed that some of these religious institutions that should be moral binders for these young people that we're talking about are actually perpetrators of some of the things, like when you talked about, you know, the things that we value, the things that we celebrate. But you go to religious institutions, so the person that pays the most tithe, that sits in the front pew, you know, the person that maybe buys all the mats in the mosque, that they recognize the most, and it's not just one religion. So we've deviated from morality, and then we're now focusing on material things, material gains. And
you know that the younger one's brain is wired to what they see.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. How do we tackle this? Because like how you're saying, for children's parties, we now not who's the best skilly-woo, you know. The religious institutions too. How have you reached, or how are you also trying to understand that this is a sector that can also contribute to what you're trying to do? Are you liaising with any religious sectors or what?
No, just like you said, I also say just like working with politicians. They already have their mind set on what they want to do. Even though, like you said, the religious institutions are the institutions that should have been taking care of the moral intelligence of the society, moral values. Why the government is building the political, the other systems and everything. The character. Now, government can send you to school, but education without character is weaponized against the society. When somebody knows so much, but you don't have any character, just like if you teach me how to shoot gun, I can decide to use that skill to protect my community, go and hunt for bushmeat for my community, I can also decide to use the same gun against my community for my own gain. So
Absolutely.
they are all education.
Yeah.
So why government builds the education, the political, other systems that
The
make
institutions. Yes.
then the religious institutions should be building the character under that. So it makes it complete. Because they are not playing their own role. If you like, let somebody be a professor of anything, speak the best of English and everything. He could only learn how to use that English to lie and confuse his community to go and become a politician and deal with them. But somebody with your English, even if you don't know much of English, but you have that sense of humanity in you, you can't cheat on your people. So what you say is correct. We've not developed a way of getting to the institutions. But even though we've tried a couple of times, but the feedback is predictable. Because they know whatever you are bringing is taking away their interest from it. They wouldn't encourage. They can tell you, okay, no problem. When you come next and they tell you the man is not available or not around. You've had programs that we invited some religious leaders and they promised to come. Just few days to the time, they declined.
Your envelope is not fat enough, maybe. Just take it as a tip from me.
I will also look at it from this angle. They said the media are the ones who shape the society.
Yes, the fourth realm.
The same thing he's saying is what we face.
Yeah.
Reaching out to the media.
Exactly.
Because it's expensive, you have to pay, and if you don't have the money, you may have good ideas, but when you're not given the opportunity, when you don't have the platform to spread the good news, it becomes an issue. So it's also important that the media should understand. There are people who have good ideas to share, but they don't have the resources. The politicians who have the resources, they can blow all their lies on in the media, and then the people will accept it and believe it. So media could also help to see how we can get this information, go into.
What about social media that is not expensive? I know conventional media like the television. I mean, you're here, we're transmitting on DSTV. It's going to be expensive if you want to go to, TV stations. And then we know that for radio stations too, you have to pay all of that. But social media, it's, I think, a lot cheaper. And then I know the target audience
most of them are not in the social media at their age.
Okay, the younger ones, right? Okay, so that's where you're focusing, between 6 to 7. 6 to 13.
Yeah, 6
which
to 13.
is true. So it limits it.
But that's where we think we can start getting it right.
Is that what they say? Catch them young?
Yeah,
Isn't
even
that
the
what
book
they
is meant
say?
for adults. At least adult mind, you can read and understand. The only thing is that you already have a formed belief. I wouldn't know how much that would break your belief to accept another one. But for this stage, they are still a bit like naive. They are still looking forward. They are very curious. So it's easier for us to get them on board. But coming to the social media, like you said, yes, we are on social media. Even social media, there is promotion fee.
No, we could do the regular. I'm snapping on my own page. I'm doing on my own Twitter handles. I'm getting, we can do smaller things and then see how it grows from there. It's very commendable that both of you are both young people, and then it's it's something important to you that there is a need. If we don't get it right at that age, what we project society is going to be. But just to wrap up the program, what will be your parting word before we go? Like you're speaking to one youth out there that's watching now. What will be your tips on how they can build their leadership skills without even having the opportunities of some of those things that are constraints to them? How do you encourage them to, on their own, if possible, find a way of developing their leadership skills?
Well, let me start with saying my final word to them is everything you want in life, your leadership, the nation, the vision, the dream, everything you've ever wanted in life is in you. It's in you. Those things you are running away to go and find in other countries is just within you. What it takes is for you to believe in yourself. Think deep. I don't know, I wouldn't want to go into religion much, but when you mean think deep, consult whatever be you are.
I'm going to hold you there. Okay. My producer has said they're enjoying the conversation, so we're not letting you go yet. But we're going to go for a short break, and then once we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Henry and Chris. It's really very important that we understand leadership, the need for leadership in our younger people. So do stay with us. We'll be right back.